The Queen of Spades by Alexander Sergeyevich Pushkin.
In a long winter night at the house of Namu, a cavalry officer passed the night gambling. At 5 in the morning, breakfast was served to the weary players. Under the influence of good wine, the conversation became general. How is it, Herman, that you never touch a card? Here you are, with the rest of us at 5 o'clock in the morning, and you have neither played or bet all night.
Play interested me greatly, but I hardly care to sacrifice the necessary of life for uncertain superfluities.
Herman is a German, that explains it, but the person I can quite understand is my grandmother, the Countess Anna Fedorovna.
Why?
Have you never heard her story?
No!
Well, listen to it. On one occasion, while playing with the Duke of Orleans, she lost an enormous sum. She told her husband of the debt, but he refused outright. She didn't know what to do, but finally she remembered a friend of hers, Count Saint Germain. He had money at his disposal, and my grandmother knew it. She sent him a note asking him to come to see her. He obeyed her summons and found her in great distress. She painted the cruelty of her husband in the darkest colors, and ended by telling the Count that she depended upon his friendship and generosity.
I could lend you the money, but there is another way of freeing yourself.
The Count then told her a secret which any of us would give a good deal to know. The next evening, Grandmother appeared at Versailles at the Queen's gaming table. The Duke of Orleans was the dealer. Grandmother made some excuse for not having brought any money and began to pawn. She chose 3 cards in succession again and again, winning every time, and was soon out of debt. Chaplitsky, who died in poverty after having squandered millions, lost one time while playing nearly 300,000 rubles. He was desperate and grandmother took pity on him. She told him the 3 cards, making him swear never to use them again. He returned to the game, staked 50,000 rubles on each card, and came out ahead after paying his debts.
Herman, whose imagination had been strongly excited by the story told by Tomsky of the 3 magic cards, went to the house of the old lady many times, but one night he entered. At the slight of noise, the old woman opened her eyes and gazed at the intruder with a half-dazed expression.
Have no fear, I beg you. I haven't come to harm you, but to ask you a favor instead. You could make me a fortune without costing you anything. Only tell me the 3 cards which are sure to win and…
It was only a joke, I swear to you, it was only a joke. The young man then drew a pistol from his pocket. The woman was so frightened that she died. Herman did not recover his usual composure during the entire day. He dined alone at an out-of-the-way restaurant and drank a great deal, in the hope of stifling his emotion. The wine only served to stimulate his imagination. He returned home and threw himself down on his bed without undressing. During the night he woke with a start. The moon shone into his chamber, making everything plainly visible. Someone looked in at the window, then quickly disappeared. He paid no attention to this, but soon he heard the vestibule door open. The stair was an unfamiliar one, and he heard the shuffling sound of loose slippers. The door of his room opened, and a woman in white entered. She came close to the bed, and the terrified man recognized the Countess. I have come to you against my will, but I was commanded to grant your request. The 3, 7, and ace in succession are the magic cards. 24 hours must elapse between the use of each card, and after the 3 have been used, you must never play again. The phantom then turned and walked away. Herman heard the outside door close, and again saw the form pass the window. He rose and went out into the hall, where his orderly lay asleep on the floor. The door was closed, finding no trace of a visitor. He returned to his room, lit his candle, and wrote down what he had just saw. Tchaikovsky, a man who had passed his whole life at cards, opened a club in St. Petersburg. His long experience secured for him the confidence of his companions, and his hospitality and genial humor conciliated society. The gilded youth flocked around him, neglecting society. Naumov invited Hermann to accompany him to the club, and the young man accepted the invitation only too willingly. Naumov presented Hermann. The host gave him a cordial handshake, begged him not to stand upon ceremony, and returned to his dealing. More than 30 cards were already on the table. Tchaikovsky paused after each coup, to allow the punters time to recognize their gains or losers, politely answering all questions and constantly smiling. After the deal was over, the cards were shuffled and the game began again.
Permit me to choose a card. How much is that? 40,000 rubles. Do you accept it or not? I hope only to remind you that the cash will be necessary. Of course, your word is good, but in order to keep the confidence of my patrons, I prefer the ready money.
Hermann took a bank check from his pocket and handed it to his host. The latter examined it attentively, then laid it on the card chosen. He began dealing to the right a nine, to the left a trade.
The train wins.
A murmur ran through the crowd. Tchaikovsky frowned for a second only. Then his smile returned. He took a roll of bank bills from his pocket and counted out the required sum. Hermann received it and at once left the table. The next evening saw him at the place again. Everyone eyed him curiously, and Tchaikovsky greeted him cordially. He selected his card and placed upon it his fresh stake. The banker began dealing to the right a nine, to the left a seven. Hermann then showed his card, a seven spot. The onlookers exclaimed, and the host was visibly disturbed. He counted out 94,000 rubles and passed them to Hermann, who accepted them without showing the least surprise. At once withdrew. The following evening he went again. His appearance was the signal for the cessation of all occupation, everyone being eager to watch the developments of events. He selected his card an ace. The dealing began, to the right a queen, to the left an ace.
The ace wins.
Your queen is killed. Hermann trembled. Looking down, he saw not the ace he had selected, but the queen of spades. He could scarcely believe his eyes. It seemed impossible that he could have made such a mistake. As he stared at the card, it seemed to him that the queen winked one eye at him mockingly. The croupier raked in the money while he looked on in stupid terror. What he left on the table all made way from him to the pass. The cards were shuffled, and the gambling went on. Hermann became a lunatic. He was confined at the hospital at Augsburg, where he spoke to not one, but kept constantly murmuring in a monotonous tone, "The tray, seven, ace. The tray, seven, queen."
Music by Tchaikovsky. Piano Concert No. 1 in B-flat minor, Op. 23, Allegro non troppo.